Welcome, I'm Logan Anderson.
And my name is Maddie Lund.
What we're going to be kind of talking about today is the early history, the foundation of cultures and values, the evolution over the decades, and some fun trivia and story time. And here with me and Maddie are...
Brent Anderson.
And Rollie Anderson.
So how did you guys kind of get started here at ATS?
Oh, I got an early start. My father made sure I had an early start. And so about 14, I was actually loading trucks at various monument dealers. And by 16, I was trailer mechanic. And by 18, I was driving.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, I joined ATS in 1991, and I started out in the shop. And one of my first jobs was doing a lot of truck cleaning, truck washing. That was my official first title. And I did that for a couple years and worked in the shop again, much like Dad, and fixing trailers and whatnot. And then got my CDL when I was 18 as well during the summer here at ATS.
I think we'll just talk about a little bit of the early history. So what was Harold, the business owner or entrepreneur like, and what things about our business were most important to Harold?
Dad felt people. He was very people-oriented individual, and he had a special place in his heart for drivers after being on the road for a number of years prior to starting ATS in 55. He loved numbers. He liked the numbers. He made decisions by the numbers, and probably his next best thing is he liked to do the heavy haul business was probably his most innovative. He wanted to be innovative with that business, and probably his first innovative experience was when Manitowoc Engineering wanted to move their cranes by truck versus placing them on the rail, and Dad was able to accomplish that.
What was Harold like? He, I would agree, was very people oriented. He was very relational. If you went out to lunch with Grandpa, he knew all of the people by name that worked at the restaurants, and people knew him. And he was just a super relational, well-liked person. He really enjoyed going to industry conferences, and he would work the room. It was great to see. He just loved people through and through throughout his career. And so that's a big focus, and that's something, here at ATS, we've tried to continue as well through that. So that's kind of how I knew Grandpa.
Did you ever hear about his vision, his hopes, and dreams for ATS? And if so, what were they?
I think he really just enjoyed seeing the family in the business, and then also how we could help the community. He saw the business as a vehicle to forward the community things like education and at Bethel University or at Anderson Center, different things like that. So he used that. He was very philanthropic, and so it was one to grow the business, but to also help the community.
Dad always said, especially in his later years, he said, I built the farm. Now it's up to you to plant and harvest the farm. And that was his challenge to me. So really we wanted the business to grow, mature, and to accomplish maybe things that couldn't have been accomplished before. So that was his challenge.
So was great-grandma Jeanette ever involved in the business at all?
No, she wasn't directly involved, but she was very, very supportive of Dad. Dad worked long hours, and so Mom was very supportive of Dad, and she was very, very supportive of the family, my brother and my sister.
So what was the first ATS truck like, and how big was our first location?
Oh, boy. Okay, the first truck. It was international.
Yep.
Single drive axle or two axles. It was gas, 6-cylinder, had a very manual shifting, and a big improvement was when we got to the V8 gas job, which was 549. So, and it was a challenge to drive.
Yeah, if you kids may remember or not that in the garage we still have one of Grandpa's old pickups. So it's a 53 International pickup that was used out on the yard at Cold Spring and for a number of years. And back in about the early 90s, I pulled it out of the shed and tried to bring it back to life. So, but that's something we still have. It's kind of one of the very first vehicles that we used as a company vehicle.
How big was our first location?
It had a small office. It was gray in color, and I'm hoping we can have a picture of that. And it was a loading shed where we could bring granite in, load it to the truck, and ship it out. In fact, the first secretary treasurer of the company had her typewriter on a group of tires, and that's how it started.
Can you talk about the people who made ATS, what it was in the early days?
It was a little different. If you think about the trucking industry back in 55, there wasn't the same infrastructure as there is today. Like, you couldn't go find somebody that had been a dispatcher for 20 years. It was kind of a relatively new industry. So everybody was kind of growing together and learning about how to do trucking together. It was just so new. Everything was different. And
Dad was able to find people that really fit the roles they were in, whether it be a dispatcher, a mechanic, or an accountant. Dad was able to find the people that really fit the roles, and they were very, very loyal. They were loyal to the business. They were appreciative to have a job at that point in time, and they usually were people that Dad knew prior to ever joining ATS in 55.
Are there any other businesses that were operating in St. Cloud in 1955 that are still around today?
I can only think of two offhand. Cold Spring Granite, who we started with right in the beginning in 1955, and 1040 Ford, who was probably the oldest Ford dealer in the country.
yeah, there's a couple other ones. I actually kind of went out and did a little research, and there's a couple funeral homes in town that have been in business for 150 years. And the St. Cloud Times, which is still around, is one of the businesses that has been around quite a long time. Burnix and Park Industries were actually around as well. So there's a couple different businesses now. Some of the names and the people have changed, but yeah, there's a few businesses around town.
So Brent, what was the most important thing you learned from Harold that you have worked to apply to the business?
Well, I think there were a couple things that I remember from Grandpa the most. And one of them is kind of a saying. I'll probably butcher it, but it's, what's right is right, and now we just have to figure out what's right. So I probably stole Rollie's, but that was something what he always said. I mean, it was just, so he believed a lot in integrity. He lived first with integrity, and that was kind of how he went about everything. And so that was really important to him. The other thing that I remember him saying is, there's no load too hot that can't cool off in the ditch. So it kind of helped you keep your perspective, when you think everything's, you got to rush around and get everything done and hurry up. But sometimes you hurry up and then you end up taking a lot more time than you wanted. So those were kind of the two things I remember Grandpa Harold saying when I was a kid. But yeah.
And Rollie, I'll ask you the same question, hopefully with a different moral.
Well, right is right. I remember that too. That was always one of his favorite sayings. Right is right. Now we just have to figure out what's right. Fairness was a very important attribute for him, treating people, and which was kind of indicative of the statement that he made. He learned a lot of leadership skills in the Air Force when he was flying in World War II, and a lot of those leadership skills in the early years I was able to assimilate from him. He also set the values, strong values along the way, and he believed in hard work and quality reputation.
So speaking of values and culture, let's talk about the foundation of our culture and values. St. Cloud has been home to ATS since the beginning. How did St. Cloud help shape ATS?
Well, first of all, this community has some very, very good people, and they have high values, and, this had a strong educational basis in St. Cloud, so it was a good opportunity to be able to hire people, and so St. Cloud offered a lot.
Yeah, I think St. Cloud, it started out as a very agricultural type area, hardworking people. And with that, we had a university here in St. Cloud, and so it did have a lot of education, educated people, and just really helped the business bring the talent that it needed, especially in the early years, to grow the business and the community together.
Could you tell us a story about how our company values came to be?
Well, I think Dad set the tone of values, even though they were probably not written down in the very beginning. But the values were set by the standards that he created and what he believed in. So I think that's the early part of the values, even though they weren't specifically written down for a number of years. And then we've quantified them and made them own them as a company.
Yeah, that's how I kind of remembered as well, is that, we got together probably in the early 2000s and we said, we don't have a formal documented value and vision statement. And so we got together and we really did start with, who is ATS? It wasn't that we came up with our values or our mission. It was we just wrote it down. We just took what we already were and we put it on paper so that everybody else can see it and visualize it and repeat it. And so we had kind of a uniform mission and vision and values for the whole company.
Where did ATS's legacy of care for drivers begin, and how have we maintained it over time?
Well, I think it really began with Harold. I mean, since he was a driver first, that's where he really started his career, is driving. And so he had a special understanding, and that's been really important. Both Dad and I have been able to drive over time, and it really helps you relate. And I can't believe how many times, I'll tell drivers that I have my CDL or I've been driving, and even recently, and they're just like, I don't know if I've ever worked for a company where the management's actually driven. And so, it's really important. We do maintain it through good driver communication weekly, through our AIP with our drivers, so that we're interacting. We put our drivers first constantly, and they're just really important to us.
I think that, because of his driving experience, he understood the problems that they have to face every day, the amount of responsibilities they have. So he just then had a great appreciation for what the driver has to do on the road every day.
For sure.
So, Rollie, ATS is a veteran-owned company. In the military, you're required to make your bed perfectly every day. What is the trucking equivalent to making your bed every day?
Well, I think in the military, making the bed is not the important thing. It's how you got there. And what you learn in the military is discipline, leadership, accountability. And you've got to be able to respond to any kind of crisis in a way that you don't even think about it. So you're trained, very much strong training atmosphere, and you carry those values, those responsibilities every day, even as well as how you dress and whether your shirt and your pants line up with your belt. So, it's the discipline that you learn every day that you carry for the rest of your life.
Now kind of lead into the evolution of kind of over the decades. So, Brent, we've heard that ATS is a technology company as much as it is a transportation company. How have we stayed on the cutting edge of technology in the transportation industry, and why is it important to do so?
Well, staying there isn't easy. We've really invested within our people and our technology, and it's a continuous evolution. So we've seen that with our digital transformation, especially in the last number of years, trying to keep investing in what's out there and keeping an ear to the ground and listening to what is coming through the pipeline. And so it's just constant innovation and investment into that technology to stay ahead.
I think back to maybe the early 90s, and there was 3 innovative things that became public to use. One was GPS, second was the internet, and the third was cell phones. Before that, you really didn't know where the truck was or couldn't talk to people or whatever. So there was 3 major points in the early 90s that really transitioned our business and really technologically changed our business.
I think, Dad, with your early time in the military, and you spent a lot of time in what would be considered early computing, I think that really gave the business a leg up on the competition because you were comfortable with it and you were welcoming that technology where other people were still trying to figure out what it was, and you got exposed at kind of an early age and embraced that technology. So it helped ATS, really move forward more quickly than other people.
Yeah, first, my job in the Air Force was charge of data automation, or the computers for the base, and we had the opportunity to convert those old card machines to actual online machines. So it was a real transformation, and it did. Again, that was another thing advantage that I had as being part of the military.
Mm-hmm.
So, Grandpa, the ATS footprint has expanded over the decades. As company leaders, how do you know when it's time to grow and where to make the investments?
Well, those are good questions, very good questions. And I think you take advantage of the time to grow when the market gives you the opportunity to grow. Then you also have to think ahead far enough to know, well, what kind of acquisition or growth pattern do you want to go to? Do you want to go to a different industry? Our heart and our mission is only transportation. It's not anything other than that. So you just, we have criteria for acquisitions, about 10 or 11 or 12 thought through criteria that we go by. Not always do we find that the criteria probably doesn't fit somebody that we would like to join forces, but we want to maintain with our acquisitions and our new development to be diversified in transportation.
Dad, do you have anything to add?
I think ATS has always looked for the opportunity. So it's a market-led opportunity, and we've always looked for things that have a moat so that they always have some type of differentiator in the market, and we see the need out in the market from the customer, and then we try to capitalize on that basically, and then it's a good management of the numbers. It's working through the numbers and making sure that they make sense, that this opportunity can be good for all people involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and talk about opportunity, and look at that, Opportunity Drive.
Yeah, wow. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
That was
Did you guys get to pick that name?
We did.
We had the option.
Yeah, we had the option of Glen Carlson, which is the other road, and Opportunity Drive, and it was an easy decision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I always was like, how did that come to conveniently happen?
Yeah.
Like, it's not some random road like Bob Road or something. But
yeah.
Anyways, Father, compared to the 70 years ago, how has the communication between dispatchers and drivers changed, and what hasn't changed?
Well, fortunately, I wasn't around 70 years ago, so I'm not sure I can answer that as well as you can. But it's changed a ton. I mean, Dad mentioned earlier about cell phones; they didn't exist, and it was kind of most of this was described to me, not necessarily I lived, but you'd have a driver that would call in on Monday morning, and they'd be like, "I'm here." Okay, you mean you're in California? Yep, I'm in California. Well, good, that's where you were supposed to be. And then, you would sometimes not talk to that driver for 2 or 3 days, and you really didn't know until he called in. There was no way to send a message, get a message. You'd have to wait because you didn't know what telephone he was going to be at. So you were pretty much at the mercy of the driver to call you, and they'd call in with wherever they were, and that's where they were. At least you hoped. And so it was a little bit, you can see how the technology really helped take the mystery out of the tracking of the truck and things like that. And so as there was GPS and there was in-cab communications, it just really completely changed the industry. And that's why, there used to be payphones everywhere. And a lot of that was for the transportation industry because these people didn't have cell phones and they'd have to call back to the office and let people know. And I remember a lot of years where it was trying to get drivers to call every day, and that was a thing. That was real. So it's kind of hard to even think about that.
Yeah, Brent, I agree. It was hard. Driver had to go find a truck stop. I'd go find a phone when it wasn't always convenient. And, I guess what there's one thing that a customer told me once that kind of drove some innovation, and that was the customer asked where his load was, and I said, I don't know. And I never wanted to have to say, I don't know where your load is again. And that really drove the innovation as the opportunity and the technology changed over the years.
What are the most influential changes in transportation industry technology you have seen over the last 70 years?
Oh, I think we've already talked about the mobile communication was just huge. GPS, cell phone, huge in the change. Internet has been really phenomenal. Something we don't always think about is the camera phone, or going from something to where we would have an issue and we'd need a picture of the load. And we used to actually distribute cameras with film. And then the driver would mail it back, and then we'd get it, and we'd have to develop the film, and then we'd finally get a picture, and it was about a week later, and then we'd somehow image it in, maybe if we were lucky enough, and try to send it to the customer if they needed to see the picture of it. So that was something we don't always think about. And as the digital pictures kind of came into, now you're sending videos within seconds. You know what happened or what's going out on the road with the cargo. So that's been another really big change that we don't always think about. Just video in general and the ease of acquiring and using some of those today has been a big deal.
Well, I guess what probably strikes me is the change in trucks and trailing equipment. I mean, tractors today are a whole lot better than back in the truck that I described early in 1955. Today you've got air ride tractors, air ride trailers, you've got communication in the truck, you've got way more safety equipment, safety technology in the truck as far as lane change and avoidance of accidents. And so there's a whole gamut of things that you can do, and even the technology in trailers have changed as steel and products have changed. We've been able to really get more in depth in what we can haul and what we can do. So equipment is absolutely revolutionized over those 70 years.
I think the driver comfort. I mean, we've
driver
got
comfort is a big
APUs,
thing.
TVs, Game Boy.
No power steering.
Back in the
no power steering, and
Mm-hmm.
now we're in automatics.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's all automatic.
versus using two handles to shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a whole new world.
It's changed a lot.
Loads are bigger. We went from heavier gross weight in the beginning at 72,000 to 80. Trucks and trailers have gotten longer from 38 feet to 53 feet.
Yep.
So there are a lot of changes over those 70 years.
So, Father, what did ATS do differently than other transporting companies that helped us reach 70 years? How will you continue on for another 70 years?
I don't know if there's just one thing that ATS has done over the 70 years to make it successful. I would tell you there's just a lot. It's having good people, having good financial numbers, and having good just accounting to know that where we're at. Sometimes the numbers are like a roadmap, and they help you know where you are and where to invest, where not to invest. That's been really important. Having clear values and vision for the company has been really important. And the technology, again, embracing technology and trying to move forward in that. There's thousands of decisions to good decisions that have had to been made over all the generations to be able to stay in business. There's probably not just any one. What do we do to keep doing that going forward? There's going to have to be thousands of decisions made going forward that with really good people as well in the business to be able to continue on.
Just adding a couple of things to that, and I agree, Brent, completely, but it helps to be privately held. You're making the decisions as to what's the best for the personnel and the business versus being driven by outside forces that sometimes force you to make decisions that you really don't want to make. And the other key is to know your customers and know what they need, be innovative enough to find the services that they need, and be dependent upon you for that for those commitments. So the customer is very, very important, and then the driver that delivers that load is also probably the best salesperson you've got.
So what are the keys, Grandpa, to growing a family-owned business?
Well,
Family.
You probably have to start by having a family.
yeah. Well, it's good to have a family, but I mean, I'm going to go back to what Dad said. Focus on what's right, and then find out what's right. And that fairness is still a key item as to growing a family business, and it's not an easy transition these days to go from generation to generation, but that would be the hope.
So beyond good parenting? Oh.
Well, I came out perfect.
Yeah,
So.
I didn't, but
that's right. Work in progress. So
don't pat me.
So anyway, what is it to have a good family business? I really think you have to keep those relationships ever present, and the business is important, but also trying to maintain and preserve the relationships as you go through it. There's a lot of hard decisions that have to make, and just making sure that we're keeping people first and not getting too caught up in the day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. So to talk about diversity in the customer mix, why is that important, and how do you achieve that balance?
The diversity in the customer mix?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's something you have to be very intentional about.
Mm-hmm.
There's diversity in lots of different ways within trucking. You can have the freight type, which is a diversity that brings on a different customer altogether. And then you can have kind of diversity within the different industries. So we've tried to be very intentional to not just have one industry type, and so that helps ATS as you go through an economy that goes up and down. Those industries will go through different ups and downs at different times. So if you have more diversity, it helps the business be more stable. Mm-hmm. And so we've really looked out, and we try to look at where each industry is at, and then put more effort where we think that there's more opportunity in the short run, and that helps the long run because there's more diversification.
Yeah, you don't want too big of one customer, too many eggs in that basket, because who knows what issues might change the perspective of that customer. And so you've got to maintain a good balance. I think you also need to maintain a balance of the type of transportation you do, whether it be the international market, or whether it be Puerto Rico and Hawaii, or whether it be a company in Saskatoon, Canada. Though even a geographical distribution helps create stability in your customer base.
So let's go into a little bit of story time.
Oh boy.
Oh, yes.
Oh boy.
Oh, perfect.
Logan, would you like to start?
I would love to start. I'm so excited for this. I know that you've worked at the shop, and there's some dirty jobs at the shop. I've experienced some of them myself.
Yeah.
What is the dirtiest job that you think you have had at the shop?
My first day of work was quite an interesting day of work. And I think it was really just a test to see if I was going to run home or not the very first day. But I remember showing up. I was about 15. It was a beautiful day. Mm-hmm. And they said, Brent, we have this problem. The culvert under the road is full of dirt and who knows what else. And we need you to clean that out. So I spent about 6 hours, and they devised this tool that was about 20 feet long with a little scraper on the end, and then it just kind of got too short, and so eventually I was inside the culvert. Lucky for them, I was not very big, and so I could fit in there, and then I'd slowly scoop the gravel out of there. I think there's a better way. I would have had a better way to do it today. But anyway, so that was one of my dirtier jobs on day one, was cleaning the culvert out at the old shop.
Yeah.
What did you drive to work that first day?
Well, you kids probably don't know this, But I was actually late for work on my first day, and it was a
Good
pouring
example.
rain.
Yeah,
So
that was a good example.
I was panicking a bit, but I might have got a ride to work my very first day because I was supposed to drive a little moped, but it was raining so hard that I couldn't do that, and then I ended up late, and so I got a ride to work my first day.
So, Dad.
Yeah.
We all know you love Coca-Cola.
Ooh. Yes, we do.
Are you responsible for the Coca-Cola vending machine downstairs?
So I just felt that there needed to be more balance in the vendor selection, more diversity in the vendor selection at ATS. And so since I might have a palate that leans more towards Coke, I just felt that was important to have a balance in life.
Does that align with our values?
Well, it aligns with our customer diversification, vendor diversification. It adds stability. We're trying to help both vendors in town, both family-owned business.
Yeah.
Both
And
family-owned businesses.
In the I drive statement on the end, that's what the V is for, actually. Vending machine.
Yeah, it could be. It could be there.
So, another fun question. Have you ever tarped a load?
Oh, yeah. Have I tarped a load? Yes, and I have a great appreciation for a gift-wrapped load. And it's been a little while, and it's a lot of work. But, yes, I've tarped many a loads, either if it was here in Minnesota or if it was in Jacksonville. I've tarped plenty of loads.
Okay.
And Dad, one more question for you.
Yeah.
We know you also like John Deere.
Ooh.
How long does it take to drive a tractor to ATS from your house?
Well, it depends which tractor I'm in.
New one.
But the newer one. So it takes about 17 minutes to drive from work to home with a tractor.
What came first, the John Deere account or your love for John Deere?
Oh, we had the John Deere account before I was probably
that goes
born.
back a
So
long
that's a
way.
long
Chicken
way.
or the
But
egg, huh?
it was more like we grew up with John Deere, and so you just fell into love with it at that point.
Yes, the beautiful green. Yes.
All right, Logan's got some questions for Grandpa.
Oh, I
Oh,
do.
no.
No,
Okay.
knowing here. So, do you have a favorite mount in your office? And do any of your mounts have special names for them?
Well, that's a very good question. My favorite mount would probably be the Sable,
Okay.
which is just a nice mount, along with my Gemsbuck, which I've got at home. So those are my two favorites. Now, I don't have any names for those African animals, but I do have one for a caribou I shot, and it's Hubert. Hubert is up at the lake, and he's been watchful since the mid-'80s.
Yeah. Do you ever just get stressed out and then need to just pet them a little bit? To calm down.
No.
So your emotional support.
But you gotta be careful if they wink at you. Be careful if they wink at you.
Okay.
So, Grandpa, I heard stories that you used to go to McMullen's all the time with a great-grandpa.
Yes.
What was your favorite thing to get there?
Burger and fries. And it's a hereditary problem because Brent also, that's the only thing he orders is a bacon double cheeseburger and fries.
I had one yesterday.
Yeah.
It was good.
They're so good.
It was good. It was good barbecue.
All right, Logan.
Oh, well, story time, barbecue. But okay, did you ever drive the truck in the lobby?
Oh, no, that's a 1928 International. And Dad drove a truck similar to that prior to World War II, before he went out. And so that was probably one of the first trucks he drove.
Okay.
Like that one.
Okay. So,
Not that act. That's why it's there, was because it was a replica of one of the trucks he drove.
yeah. So how do you know how it actually got in there? Like how they brought it in there?
Was it piece by piece?
No, I'll turn that one over to Brent because Brent engineered that project.
Yeah, so, we knew when we built this building that we're in that we wanted to put that in as a central display piece. So that was kind of part of the deal. And as we were building the building, one thing that we did was we had it restored. Grandpa used to drive that in parades in St. Cloud when in the early days in the Wings, Water, and Wheel parades. So I remember it as a kid. I rode in it. Sometimes there'd be some politician type people that would ride in the back of it and wave and go down. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But anyway, when we had the truck redone, and it was basically all completed. And then there's actually, you can open up the front entryway, multiple panels of glass open up, and we put it on little dolly carts, and we rolled it in here and then got it into position and then jacked it up and put it down on its wheels and stuff. So yeah, it was we were kind of planning ahead on that.
Yep.
Yeah. Did it have the granite on it when you guys were dollying it, or?
No, the granite block is, so the block is bigger than what that rock could that truck could actually handle. So
Okay.
if you look at it, it's kind of interesting. The block is actually hollow. It's
Okay.
only about 4 inches thick all the way around, and the top is glued on. But no, we set the rock on top of it once it was in here with the
Okay.
forklift or something like that. But yeah, it just so that truck would never be able to move a piece that big
Do you know
because
how
granite's
much
so
it
heavy.
weighs?
I do not remember.
I don't remember
I once
either.
upon a time knew how much it weighed, but it's very heavy.
And the stone that's on it is Isle Gray, which is some of the first stone that Great Grandpa Elmer hauled to the railroad for Cold Spring granite back in the late 30s.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so we'll just kind of do a little wrap up. So,
Okay.
what is the future vision for ATS? How will we get there? You.
All right. A lot of pressure. So, really we see ATS continuing on as a family-owned business is the goal. And it would be in a similar way, staying true to our mission, vision, values is how we want to operate the business going forward is the goal, and staying with our diversified portfolio. So growing through both acquisition and organic growth in different markets and following opportunistic need. So, the need for the industry is going to change. The good news at this point is there's no way to move things without trucks and people and whatnot. So we really see, being able to stay diversified in different markets.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Technology is going to continue to change, and I
Yes.
think you got to stay current in technology. I think about how far it's come, both in truck technology and communication technology, and that's going to continue to go at an even faster pace as we look ahead. So technology is going to continue to be very important.
So that closes our questions. Thank you for answering. Do you have any other last-minute comments?
Well, I guess I would like to say thank you to the number of employees over the years that have contributed to the success of ATS. And I want to thank the people that are currently drivers and employees that are involved at ATS today. And I just look forward to the employees and the possibilities of the future. So I want to say even thank you to the future employees of ATS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I too would like to say thank you to everybody that has contributed in the past to ATS and making it who it is, and the history. It's just such a rich history. There's so many stories and so many different things that we can look back on, and then there's the current people, and just it's great. We love our Christmas parties. It's great to see everybody and meet everybody, and so thank you for the current people that are involved with ATS, and we really look forward to the future and what it holds, and how we can provide opportunity to drivers and employees in the future.
Thank you again for watching. A couple other things to look for is we're going to have 70 days of giveaways for drivers and employees. We'll also have additional trivia, and there'll be a special edition of the Herald coming out.
And I would like for you to look to my lapel for the 70th year anniversary logo. If you want these shirts, they should be available at the time of this video. If they're not, they should be available soon.
Again, we just want to say thank you for watching.